Welcome to South Florida saltwater fishing. I'm Heath, and it's time to get into the bite. Dolphin in the boat! Woo!
Solo kingfish trip right there. Step that.
That's a beast.
There. Let's do this.
That's mutton snapper right there, baby.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Alright folks, in this episode we're going to do a catch, clean, and cook on a fish that most of the time people end up catching and releasing. They get it on board, they look at it, and they don't necessarily know what it is. It's a long, slender, pale golden fish known as a sand tilefish. After you see this episode, you will no longer release these fish. That's right, we're doing the poor man's lobster. Before we get into this though, if you want to learn more about fishing, grow as an angler, or just see some great and exciting offshore fishing adventures, you can start by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss a thing. So we're going to start out by catching this fish. Went out the other day, was doing some slow pitch jigging. Just doing some exploring around, ended up in about 150 feet of water. Did a couple of pulls, and I got this weird bite. Didn't feel very big, but I knew it was a fish. Pulled it up, lo and behold, it was a fairly good sized sand tilefish. My first thought was, man, I would love to do a catch, clean, cook on this fish. I know that most people catch these, look at it and go, what's that? And they throw it back in the water. They think it's some sort of wrasse or some sort of reef fish or something, which it is entirely not. It is known as the poor man's lobster. Delicious. You cook it right and it has an authentic taste that similarly tastes like lobster. Alright, so let's get into catching this guy.
Alright folks, so we've headed out of Boca Raton Inlet today. Headed up north to Delray Beach. Gonna do a little bit of slow pitch jigging. Sun is straight up high, it's noon. Great thing about slow pitch jigging is it tends to work best in high light conditions. So, we're gonna take our chances. The setup I'm using for the slow pitch jigging is an Accuracte 600N from the Boss Fury series. It's spooled with 900 yards of 30-pound braid. The jig I'll be using is from a company called Jyg, J-Y-G. It's a 200-gram jig, and I've got 4 3/0 hooks with mylar little sort of frizzles hanging off the end of it. All right, we're gonna position the boat, drop out our line, see if we can get somebody. Say hello. Currently right in just under 140 feet of water. See what we can get. All right, we're on the bottom. And we got a hook up. Drop down. Got a hook up immediately. See what we got. Never know what you get with slow pitch jigging. Sometimes it's a snapper, sometimes it's a bonita. Let's see, here we go. Jig coming up. And looks like we got, oh, we got a tilefish. We snagged a tilefish. A sand tilefish. That is awesome. That's a big guy too. That's crazy. That just goes to show you, you never know what you're gonna get slow pitch jigging. That's a pretty big sand tilefish too. We'll keep them. I'll take those tilefish all day long. You cook them the right way, they taste just like lobster.
Alright, and so that was catching sand tilefish. A good sized one too. They're typically half that size. Now we're gonna get into cleaning this fish. So the cleaning of the fish starts as it would with any other fish. We're going to take him, we're going to flip him around and get situated. We're going to make an incision behind his pectoral fin. Then we're going to make an incision that runs all the way down his dorsal fin. And then flip him over. And then we'll make an incision all the way down the underside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to trim away some of the top side flesh away from his spine and his spine bones till we reach the spine. And then we're going to insert the knife about halfway through the fish, run it over the spine, making sure not to pierce through the other side. And then we're going to pull our knife backwards towards his tail, making sure not to remove the fillet from the tail. We will use this extra little itty bitty piece of skin to hold the fillet to the fish so that we can skin it. Then we're going to flip our knife around and run it all the way up to his head, and this will release the fillet from the body. The next thing we'll do is we're going to flip it over and we're going to insert our knife in between the flesh and the fat layer of the skin. Now, sand tilefish have a good fat layer, so they're relatively easy to skin. And then you just give it a couple of swipes, you release your fillet from the skin, and you have a nice fillet. Get as much meat off of these fish as you can because they're not very big and there's not a lot there. And it's somewhat of a delicacy. And then we will repeat the process on the other side. Again, we're going to make an incision behind the pectoral fin, make an incision that runs the length of his body all the way down his dorsal fin. Then we're going to make another incision on the underside, the belly side, all the way down. Insert our knife, drag it down towards the tail, making sure not to remove the fillet. Then we'll flip our knife over, draw it towards the head, through the rib cage, releasing the fillet from the body. And then we will skin the fillet. Now, all we are left with is a carcass to dispose of. Now the next thing to do is to debone the fish. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find his rib cage and we're going to swipe down as close to the ribs as we can and remove those. Now we have to remove the pin bones which run down the lateral line of the fish. Now, tilefish have pin bones that run almost the entire length of their body, so you have to feel for them. You're going to go fairly deep into the fillet, splitting the fillet almost in half all the way down. We'll do this to both fillets, then we will bag them up. And again, the most important rule of processing any fish: do not rinse it off with fresh water. Only rinse it off with fresh water once you're ready to start cooking it. Alright, so that was cleaning the sand tilefish. Pretty much goes the same as every other fish, they just have a little bit more pin bones. You have to be careful. And it's a tiny fish, but it's a delicacy, so you don't want to waste any meat. Now we're going to get into my favorite part of catching a sand tilefish, which is the cooking and eating. First thing I like to do, as I do with all my fish, is I will make a brine. This brine is salt, juice of 1 lemon, some ice, some water. I'm going to slosh it all around, get it nice and mixed up. Then I'm going to take the fillets of my fish and I'm going to portion them out appropriately. And then I'm going to put them in this brine and I'm going to leave it in there for about a half an hour. Alright, so while our fish is resting in the brine, what I like to do to make a complete meal with this, you're going to like this. We're going to take a broccoli crown and we're going to cut it into florets. We're going to get some water boiling in a pot and we're going to start steaming some broccoli. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some olive oil in a pan. We're going to slice up some onions and we're going to start sauteing those. While everything is starting to saute and steam, we're going to set a little toaster oven, if you have one, to broil. If not, you can use your conventional standard size oven, set it to broil. Now that our fish has rested in the brine for long enough, it's time to remove the fish from the brine, pat it dry. We're going to lay it on an aluminum foil covered pan. We're going to put tiny pads of butter on top of it. You don't need to do anything, in my opinion, to tilefish. You want to be able to taste this authentic flavor of this fish. After you've got the butter on it, you're going to take it and you're going to pop it in the oven for about 5 minutes. And now while the fish is broiling on the first side, I like to take a salad kit, an Asian salad kit. It goes great with this meal. It's got green cabbage, green lettuce, red cabbage, some kale. It's got sliced almonds and little wontons, and then this great ginger sesame dressing. You mix it all together in a bowl, and it's going to bring this meal full circle. Now, after we've mixed up the salad kit, we're going to remove our fish from the oven, flip it over, put it back in the oven for 5 more minutes, and we're done. And the last thing to do while we are waiting for the fish to finish up is we're going to chop up some fresh cilantro. While the meal is finishing cooking, what we're going to do is we're going to make this special. We're going to light a couple of candles. We're going to get a nice bottle of wine, some Sauvignon Blanc. Pour us a little glass of that. Now it's time to plate up this meal. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to take a nice portion of the Asian salad. We're going to put it on the plate. Then we're going to grab some of the broccoli florets, plate those up. Then we're going to make a bed of the sauteed onions. Next thing we'll do is we're going to lay some of our fillets on top of that. And finally, we're going to sprinkle it with some fresh cut cilantro. Grab a fork. We're going to bring this over to the table. We're going to serve our lovely wife with a nice glass of wine and a delicious looking dinner. We're going to seal it with a kiss, and voila! You have the meal of a lifetime. Alright folks, that about does it for this episode. Hope you had fun, hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned about making a great recipe for sand tilefish, the poor man's lobster. Till next time, South Florida saltwater fishing, going wherever the cool wind takes us.